This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 109. Models Memories is a show about nothing and it is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week. How? Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week I saw a product that I absolutely could not believe existed, and I saw a Kickstarter that did unbelievably well and kind of made me rethink like how I think that the wargaming industry is doing right now. But first, I would like you to picture a space, a digital space, a Squarespace, if you will. What would it look like? Well, no matter what you're envisioning, Squarespace has got you covered. With dozens of award-winning templates to pick from, you can create the website of your dreams. And it's not just dropping things into a template. With Squarespace's broad range of editing tools, you can customize your website to your heart's content. Whether you need integrated social media links to direct people to your unique online content, built-in comment sections so you can directly interact with your audience, or tracking of analytics so you always know what's going on online, Squarespace has you covered. Squarespace is the easy-to-use online website builder that makes it possible for anyone to have a polished and professional-looking website. So head on over to Squarespace, and when you're ready to rock and roll, use our code EonsOfBattle to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Many of you guys probably remember the Toy Warhammer figures, which have actually they've been going like a train. It seems like every single week they come out with a new thing from the Warhammer 40k universe, which I thought that they were just gonna do like some Space Marines, some Orcs, a smattering of Sisters of Battle, and then it would just kind of quietly disappear. But no, they're like cranking out every single thing from the Warhammer universe, Death Korps of Krieg, every single popular chapter of Space Marines, like so much stuff. And apparently they're decent. I only have the McFarlane figure, which is okay. Like it's not, I think it was like $20 from Target, and it's like that gummy PVC plastic, but it was decent. But apparently these new figures from Toy are actually pretty decent. Although I did see some product reviews that it may have just been the product reviews of the seller I was looking at, and not necessarily product reviews for the Toy figures. But there was like the same account or different accounts that all posted at the same exact time on some Space Wolf guys that all said like very good Wolverine like exclamation mark, which is not like, you know, you never know, like it could just be somebody who's a little bit confused of what the product is. But if you see multiple of like identical confusing comments under like the same exact thing, it's like maybe a bot left some of those. You see them all the time on Amazon. It's hilarious. Like, my husband loved this product. And then 2 later, my husband loved this product. And then you could scroll down 2 more. My husband loved this product. It's great. It's impossible. Shopping now is like impossible. Because if you're like, I need a new phone charger, Google, what's the best phone charger I can buy? You'll just see 200 top 10 articles that all just from somebody who has like an Amazon affiliate link, hoping that somebody will use their links. It's great. But anyway, getting back to these McFarlane figures, they're pretty cool. There's some new ones that I was really interested in. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw some figures that weren't for Warhammer 40k or like some anime or just something normal. They were for Corvus Belli Infinity, which is kind of the coolest thing ever. I did not expect at all that any other miniature war games would kind of get in on this action figure action. There are pre-orders available for, it looks like 4 units from the Ariadne faction for Corvus Belli Infinity, which is the faction that I have. I have a humongous box of Infinity stuff. I really want to play Infinity. I've heard it's like a really tight skirmish game. I've flipped through the rules a little bit. It looks really fun. The models, some of the models are really appealing, and some of the models are just kind of like generic army, which is not my favorite. Like, they're cool. All of the models are cool, but sometimes like these are just army dudes. I like a little bit of extra spice on my army dudes. Like Space Marines are army dudes, but they're also Buzz Lightyear super soldiers. Sisters of Battle are army dudes, but they're also like gothic nuns with guns. There's a little extra spice on there. There's a little yes and going on. And 3 of these are pretty normal Ariadne Proitech heavy shotgun Ratnik robots, or not robot, but mech suit. Pretty cool, but also kind of looks like a mech suit that you'd see in any other video game, or like any just generic shooter video game out there. Ariadne Marauders, 5,307th Rangers. They're kind of cool with their bomb suits. The Ariadna Army Pack, just the normal dudes, which I have so many of. But what really, really caught my eye was the Ariadna Mirage 5. This is what I really like. Infinity does some really, really fun stuff every now and again. Like their gecko suits are mech suits, but they have like tails and a little bit of like a reptilian design. And this is a set that I absolutely need. It is Little Red Riding Hood, but tactical. It's the best. You've got a little sniper lady with a red bandana because she's Little Red Riding Hood. And then you've got the big bad wolf with his 2 machine guns or submachine guns or mega machine guns. It's really, really just a fun thing. I know that not everybody gets into like fun for some reason in miniature wargaming. They like things that are maybe a little bit more realistic, which is a crazy sentence to say, but some people do. I mean, some people play historicals. I don't really get it. I like a little extra spice. I like a little something. But man, Little Red Riding Hood in a miniature war game as like the idea behind this 2-pack of guys is really, really fun. And it's really, really cool to see it brought into action figure form. I can definitely see, because Corvus Belli has some really, really interesting models. I could also see maybe Malifaux getting into something like this, having some action figures made of their figures, because there's definitely some Malifaux characters that I would love to get in like an action figure form. There are other games where I don't really see it happening as much. I don't know. A lot of miniature war games out there, they're either based on an intellectual property that already exists, which I think is a very smart idea, or they have their own unique stuff that is their own unique take on Games Workshop's unique take on Tolkien-esque fantasy turned science fiction. You know, you see it in a lot of Mantic's products. You see it all over the place, and it's cool, and it's a little extra something going on. But I don't know if it's a figure that I would want on my desk staring at me at all times. Like Little Red Riding Hood, absolutely love it. You know, classic Tolkien-esque dwarf who has a power hammer instead of a magic hammer. I don't know. But man, it's expensive. $134 for the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. Steep. It's really steep. I don't know much about the high quality action figure genre. I have some action figures, but they're just the little ones that I had when I was a kid, like that I got from Toys R Us. Like they're just the little Star Wars guys. And they were cheap. So yeah, it's interesting, the tall action figures. Oh, and the paint looks really good. I would love someone else to buy a bunch of this stuff, and then I get to take a look at it and see it in my hands and be like, see if it's really good or not. Because there's some that I actually do want, like a Grey Knight. The Grey Knight Terminator would be really, really cool. But would I want to repaint it? I don't really like painting busts or larger things because I like it's a figure that I can use in the game. I am progressing. Like I like miniature painting, but I also love miniature painting for a purpose, and that purpose is to beat Sean, to play with this in a miniature war game, because you get to, you know, while you're painting, you have that next step that you're preparing for. You're like, ooh, these guys are coming along really, really good, and they're gonna look really good across the table from my opponent when I absolutely wreck them with these Blade Guard veterans, when in reality, they're probably gonna die because of new model syndrome, where you're super excited about this new thing that you just finished and you just got it painted up and you put it on the table and it's just glistening and you're so excited. And then like a basilisk just drops a pie plate on your guys and they all just get vaporized. I mean, I guess that can't happen anymore because that's 7th edition when they still use the templates. Which, thank goodness they got rid of templates, because it was really annoying to have to carefully measure 2 inches so that your guys could be as spread out as they possibly can be. It's just, you just have to do that. And if you don't do that, you're being lazy and giving yourself a handicap by letting your opponent possibly be able to hit more guys under a template. Super glad that that's gone. But yeah, Little Red Riding Hood, Corvus Belli action figures for Joy Toy. Ah, man, I want Malifaux. I might send them an email. Just be like, can you please make some of my Colette Dubois? Can you please make a Colette, or let them make a Colette Dubois action figure? I wonder what I would love to know more behind the scenes. I bet I could reach out to Infinity and get a little bit of behind the scenes, because I would like, do they get approached by Joy Toy, who's just like, we're looking for more stuff to do that has an audience behind it that we can turn into something else? Or did they reach out and they're like, hey, we have some characters that are really kind of popping off and we would love to just get them out there and get them in front of more people? Like, what's the split? I'm sure most of it goes to the action figure company because they're doing everything except for they're probably just licensing the intellectual property. But it's neat. It's a weird world we live in. And by weird, I mean Malifaux. Please make action figures of your guys, because I love them. Malifaux, if you go on Malifaux's website, you can download wallpapers of pretty much every character in the entire game. It might be almost every single character in the entire game. And there's so many lovely, weird, eccentric characters. It would be really, really neat. And speaking of tabletop wargaming things that are weird and wacky, I don't have an opinion on BattleTech, and that might already sound very negative. I don't know, BattleTech, I like the look of BattleTech, and I love that it's just quietly humming along. I'm not super interested in playing it. I should give it a try because it is a very popular game that lots of people really, really enjoy the spit out of. But for some reason, if I were to play a big old mech game, I would probably play Adeptus Titanicus, because I guess I would like to pay $300 extra to play with the robots I know. But it does look like an interesting game. And quietly on Kickstarter, they have an expansion for their game. I don't remember if it's STLs or physical product for a new expansion with new mechs, because they're slowly evolving their mechs, because a lot of them are still in the old hand-done metal sculpts. But now some of the newer digitally designed sculpts are looking really, really good. But this Kickstarter for an expansion to the game got $6 million. That's excellent. It's really, really cool. And it's cool, even though I don't really care about BattleTech, it's great that that happens. Like, I've seen a lot of wargaming Kickstarters, and I really, really wish that the wargaming industry wasn't so interconnected with Kickstarter, because I don't really like Kickstarter. I really prefer instant gratification, where I plop the money on the table and then I get the thing. And that's instant gratification, because then I take it home and I open it up and then I spend months and months putting it all together and figuring out the rules. Instant gratification, but I much prefer that to kickstarting a product and then waiting for who knows how long before you actually get it. And by then I've forgotten that I even bought it, and that initial excitement of like, ooh, I'm gonna get this painted up and then I'm gonna get it into the game night. It's kind of over. Also, what was funny is the original, the whole way you do Kickstarter is kind of funny, because I think the initial ask for this Kickstarter campaign was like 50 grand, which is not enough. It's not enough at all. But obviously, you put that starting price really, really low. It's like, we did all of this amazing stuff and created all of these amazing renderings and character design and books and things, and we're asking for $50 if we can make it to $50. And then of course it becomes successfully kickstarted within like the first 3 seconds, because that's what you want to help the Kickstarter have enough momentum to keep on rolling. But it's just funny to see all of these amazing Kickstarters. And then it's always like, ooh, our initial funding request was, $30 and a ham sandwich, and we nailed it. Good old Kickstarter. What was the name of the Kickstarter that was like not fake Kickstarter, but there was one Kickstarter where you didn't have to prove anything, and then it just got flooded with people who were building robots that were going to do all of these cool things, but they didn't have to actually prove that they did anything or could make a robot. Maybe it was Indiegogo or one of those other ones. And then it all kind of moved over to Kickstarter, because Kickstarter just makes you try a little. Where the other one, God, so many of those robots that were trying to be made by people who absolutely do not know how to build robots. But man, $6 million for BattleTech. I mean, I'm sure BattleTech is awesome, but that's a lot of money, and it makes me really, really happy to see that sort of excitement be generated for our little wargaming industry. I know BattleTech is old, but I suspected that it would be known properties that were going to be like the next big thing for miniature wargames, because that's kind of what happened with the last time a miniature wargaming thing blew up besides, 40K, where Star Wars X-Wing was based on Star Wars. And so that brought tons and tons of people into the hobby because they could play Star Wars physically, like with friends. Like, it's a really, really great idea. But it seems like that's not necessarily the case. Like, I know what's Noble Knight makes the Batman game and the Harry Potter game, and they've existed for a long time. Like, I think they're over 5 years old, those games, but they're just kind of humming along. Like, I would have expected that the known property would be a big selling point, but it seems like, I don't know, what is the big selling point of a miniature war game? Because it's not the rules, because you don't get to try the game out until you have it. It must be the miniatures, but you would think miniatures based on a known intellectual thing would be the big draw, because people aren't just gonna, people are gonna see a cool robot and be like, that's a cool robot, and then just keep scrolling. But if it's the robot they know and love, R2-D2, that's the thing that's gonna make them pull the trigger. It'll be really interesting to see. I think we are on the cusp of another war game blowing up. Maybe it's going to be Shatterpoint from Star Wars. We're just gonna see Star Wars continue to be popular and bring some more people into the miniature wargaming space. Ooh, speaking of the Joy Toy action figures, it would be so cool? Because X-Wing is my favorite game of all time. What if they took some of those X-Wing ships and made them bigger? Then I could have a big old X-Wing on my desk. That definitely doesn't already exist. And I definitely don't already own Lego sets of the little X-Wing characters from the game. I think there's also like movies based around X-Wing. It's really, really cool. But yeah, what's one thing that I have, and I have it right here. Starship Troopers, the miniatures game. This is a game, it's been on the shelf for a long, long time. Man, I bought this game, I think right after high school, because there was dozens of these boxes on the dustiest shelf in my game store, my friendly local game store. And I love Frank Darabont's movie, Starship Troopers. I read the first half of the book, which was good. I'm not good at finishing books. I like the anime movies. The anime movies for Starship Troopers are better than they have any right to be. Like, it sounds like it's gonna be an absolute disaster. They're not bad. They're definitely better than Starship Troopers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8 or whatever. They're actually pretty good. But I think this is an interesting game because it came out in 2007 and then crashed and burned in 2008. I think this is from a publisher called Mongoose Publishing, which also no longer exists. I think they stopped in 2008 as well. But this came out full force, and I like expansions, army books, everything you could possibly want. Humongous, beautiful core set with like 25 bugs, tons and tons of troopers, tons of extra things, tokens, game mats, rule books, everything you could possibly want. And I think it was probably way, way, way too early. Like, if Starship Troopers, the miniatures game, came to Kickstarter today, would it work? Would it succeed? Because I think it probably would. I think that there's I would like to think that everybody who likes tabletop wargaming also really likes Starship Troopers, because how could you not? It's literally a perfect wargame. You got the bugs versus the humans. There's also like the weird aliens from the video games, the skinnies. You've got all of these perfect, it's the whole thing is literally a wargame. And then they turn it into a miniatures game, but it was in 2007. probably when Games Workshop was even struggling because of 6th and 7th edition, because man, those editions were fun, but it's always fun. Playing miniature war games is fun, but man, those editions were a little bit rough. It reminds me a lot of this tail end of 9th that we're going through in preparation for 10th edition. But I think if that war game came out today, it would do a lot better. It had everything you would want, tons of expansions. And what's kind of fun is, even though it's a very dead game, they went so hard into it that you can actually still get a lot of this stuff on eBay for a fairly reasonable price. And a lot of tiny, tiny little companies bought the molds, the metal molds for a lot of the individual units, because most stuff was in plastic. And then all of like the heroes and elite characters were in white metal. And so every now and then I'll be like looking through these little casters and I'll see like, wait a second, is that the brain bug? And you just imagine this story of like I don't know, auctioning off the remaining dregs of this Mongoose publishing company and somebody bidding, I don't know, $100 on the mold for the brain bug, and then they've been producing it for like the last decade and a half. I would there's so much just fun weirdness out there. But I've always wondered what to do with the Starship Troopers game, because it's going to take a couple 100 hours to put together and to paint all the stuff that I have for this game that doesn't exist and no one knows it exists from a company that nobody has ever heard of. But man, it would be interesting. I would love to see something like that. Could it make a comeback? Maybe, possibly, potentially. I don't know. What property out there is in a good place to get wargamified? Because I actually feel like Harry Potter, probably not a great property to get wargamed. Probably make some great board games. It probably is some great board games. I just don't know that much about board gaming. But there's not really a war aspect to Harry Potter. I guess that last book, but it's only like the last third. And the whole, I mean, you know, Harry Potter is great for like characters and world building, but the combat in Harry Potter is just, they fight. There's not that much excitement to it. I mean, you know, spells are cool. Yubadoo, Avada Kedavra. It's abracadabra, but evil. Get it? Because anyway, Harry Potter, not that great, but like what out there is perfect for a war game? Maybe like Attack on Titan for an asymmetrical war game where somebody is playing the good guys and then somebody's playing the Titans. Maybe Star Wars would be, no. Maybe you keep going with the 80s. Oh, what company there's a slasher board game / war game kind of hybrid where some people play as like the campers and some people play, or the counselors, and some people play as the slasher who's working their way through them. There's a lot of room out there, but I don't know what's the next big thing. I mean, I think we know currently what the big things are, and it's 40K, apparently BattleTech, and then whatever is going on with Star Wars, either Star Wars Legion or Shatterpoint. Which, I am a part of pretty much all of the Facebook groups for Star Wars Legion, and all of them are sweating really, really hard because they're worried that their game is going to go away because now there's going to be another similar war game in Shatterpoint. I think that there's plenty of room for both because Shatterpoint is all about tiny squads of characters, where Star Wars Legion is all about bringing as many stormtroopers as you can possibly bring. Where the heroes in the Star Wars Legion almost don't work that well. They're really, really, really powerful. Where really you should probably be bringing more just troops and vehicles. You know, it's like the clone episodes of Star Wars, the Clone Wars versus like the Jedi and Sith episodes of Star Wars. Like they feel very, very different in power level. And I think there's plenty of room for both, but man, every single day people are posting like, is this the end of our game? Is it going away? And I hope it's not, because I really, really like Star Wars Legion. It's a great game. I love putting together entire armies of Star Wars. And I would love to put together entire armies of bugs. Oh, I have so many bugs. I remember, I think it was like the summer when I was in college, one of the summers when I was in college, where I put together all of the miniatures and I started painting the bugs. And it was just hours and hours and hours. I got them all built in base code and I got like one painted up, but it's gonna be some serious work. But would it be worth it? Would it be worth it? Would it be worth it to turn on the soundtrack of Starship Troopers and get all the models ready to go and learn all the rules and then just play it? It sounds glorious, but it also sounds like an incredible amount of work for one afternoon of gaming, and then we never touch it ever again. That is also the problem with miniature war games. You really, unless you're a total weirdo, you really can't play that many of them. It takes so much work to get all of the things and build all the things and understand all the rules, to have them all at your fingertips. Like, you know, your Steam library is just a cornucopia of instant enjoyments. I'm going to play a little FTL today. I'm going to play a little Fallout New Vegas today. I'm going to play a little Doom today. Or miniature war games. When you're looking through the shelves of your friendly local game store, it's all an amazing opportunity for fun. But man, does that fun take some work to get going. Board games have it a little bit easier, where it's all contained in the box and you don't have, everything is essentially just tokens and cards. Although I think sometimes the most fun board games are the ones that are a lot like tabletop wargaming, like Root. Root's the best game ever. Nemesis is a great board game, although you almost need a DM to run it because it is so rules heavy. Like if you're playing with gamers, you'll get it. But if you're playing with civilians, you need someone to let everybody know what on earth abilities do you actually have to do in the game. But yeah, tabletop wargaming, it is the weirdest, wackiest, most interesting form of entertainment. And I don't think it'll ever die. Like I know, man, 10 years ago, more than that, 15 years ago, like tabletop wargaming was kind of expected to die, especially when Games Workshop was doing really, really poorly. And X-Wing was sort of taking over, but it felt really, really different because it had the pre-painted models and it didn't have a lot of the things that a classical wargame had. But the actual thing that makes wargaming really, really good is you have to play it together. You have to get other people to play it with you. And it gives you that excuse to get everybody together and to drink Mountain Dew and pretzels and yell at each other and scream when the dice are in your favor and cry when the dice aren't in your favor. It's just a great thing to do that helps to replenish your human meter, where that that same thing isn't the same with video gaming. There is some of that with video gaming with multiplayer where you can be on the headsets and talking to each other, but it's not the same. Miniature wargaming is a really, really fancy, cool thing. And the terrain, it's like the Christmas villages that your grandma makes. You just get to create this environment however you want. And if you really, really want some really cool terrain to make an environment out of, then our Patreon is the place to be. Every single month, we have a brand new STL terrain pack. This month, we have the Twisted Train Station, a devilish depot perfect for skirmish games like Malifaux or anything else you can think of. We also make one extra episode of Eon's Battle every single week where we take a look at our viewers' miniatures and give us some ideas and critiques of how to improve their painting. We host live Discord hangouts, and we have a tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines and you can join the Immortal Crusade. It's been a wonderful week of wargaming, and I might just have to pull the trigger on that tactical Little Red Riding Hood and Big Bad Wolf. Thanks for watching.